In this video, I'm going to be sharing 6 tips that changed my color grading forever. Like a lot of people, I'm not a professional colorist, but I am a full-time videographer and I've been doing this professionally for over 2 years. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll learn a lot of new ways to up your color grading and avoid the mistakes that I did along the way. You may not see it at first, but when you start uploading YouTube, you'll see something annoying going on with your footage, and it's called banding. Due to YouTube's compression, you'll see parts of your image that are kind of like stepping stones of color, and there's actually a way to get rid of that. We're going to add a node to the very end of our node tree, and the reason why we're doing it at the end is because we're adding grain. That adds enough movement to your footage that when you upload it to YouTube, it actually cuts down on the banding you see because there's actually movement going around, like particles of grain. That's how you can get rid of banding on your footage, or at least cut it down when uploading to YouTube. This tip really actually saved me after I shattered my black promise filter. There's actually a plugin you can buy called Scatter from a company called Video Village. I didn't pay for this plugin, but I actually reached out to them and they supplied me with a free trial of the version so I could test it out and make a video of it. The big benefit of using this plugin is that you can actually change the intensity of the diffusion post. I will probably actually just stick to the actual filter in the long run, but I think there's a cool option for people who want to add diffusion to their footage in post. This next tip really helps getting a film look in the highlights. For this, I'm using a tool called film compression, and you can find it inside a plugin called Dehancer Pro. This gives the image a really nice compression in the highlights, and it makes it appear like your image has more dynamic range than it really does, mimicking the highlights you get shooting on actual film. This next tip really helps give your image a lot of density and weight, and there are several ways I approach this. Both are free and paid. Free way to do this is to add a node, change the color space to HSV, disable channels 1 and 3. Now with the gain knob, these settings will allow you to introduce saturation without affecting anything else. You're adding just pure saturation. Another way you can do this with the same effect is we're actually going to go in and again use Dehancer Pro plugin. And there's a slider called color density, and you can use that to get the same effect. This tip really helps unlock a filmic saturation for your footage. And this next tip really helps with using LUTs inside of DaVinci. If you spend any good amount of time learning color grading, I'm sure you have a collection or a folder on your desktop with just LUTs you've gotten from here and gotten from there. I have the buttery LUT pack, and I like these LUTs, but there's a problem is that they're not actually built for DaVinci Wide Gamut. So what you want to do is you want to set up your project settings as DaVinci Wide RGB, DaVinci Wide Gamut / intermediate, and then Direct 709A. That's because I'm on a Mac and I'm going to be uploading to YouTube. Then I add a node getting me from my camera's color space to DaVinci Wide Gamut. In this case, it's a Blackmagic camera, so Blackmagic Gem Film 5 to DaVinci Wide Gamut. And then I add a node going from DaVinci Wide Gamut, not to Rec 709, but back to Blackmagic's color space. And then after that, I add a buttery LUT on a new node after that, because the buttery LUT expects Blackmagic. So this allows me to have a section of my node tree where I can work in DaVinci Wide Gamut and still get the benefits of using a LUT that I like, the buttery natural Rec 709 LUT. And you can do this with any LUT as long as you just know the input. And this tip is the one that really made my footage stand out and gets me more of a Hollywood style look. You'll notice in a lot of movies there can be a ton of contrast when you're watching it, especially if it's shot on film. But one thing that I noticed, while an image may have a lot of contrast, it actually has pretty smooth shadows. The downfall I've been making in my footage is kind of having too crunchy of shadows, as people like to say. And so I figured out a way around this, and this is actually with a custom DCTL that Colin Cully has. And what you do is you simply just apply the DCTL to a node, and then you take the eyedropper tool and you click it, and then basically you're setting a middle grade point on the next node behind it. You get rid of the DCTL. What this does is this marks middle gray. So now whenever you're adjusting curves, you're adjusting just what's below middle gray, and that allows you to smooth out the shadows. That gets you a really filmic, contrasty level where you have a lot of contrast in the image, but the bottom doesn't just go crunch. And this is really what adds like a finishing touch in my experience to my grades, giving it that Hollywood style movie look. I mentioned earlier in this video about using several tools within Dehancer Pro to get a film look, and truthfully there's a lot that goes into that plugin. So if you want to know more about that and all the different ways you can get a filmic look or film emulation, check out this video up here and see everything you can do to your footage.